The Yorkshire Dales, a special mix of rolling hills, dramatic valleys and chocolate box villages. A landscape of lonely barns, dry stone walls and manicured fields dotted with animals.
The reason why the countryside looks as it does is because of the way people have farmed for the last 100 years.
It's very satisfying when new life's coming into the world. It's a great feeling. It's in my blood.
We're not farming the land for money, we're farming it because we've always done it. We're farming the land because it's a Dales thing, and we're farming the land because we love the animals.
After BSE and falling land prices, farmers looked forward to 2001, despite average incomes of less than £8,000 a year. Then, in February, foot and mouth disease arrived. Nobody could have predicted 10 million animals would eventually be slaughtered across the UK. For over 3 months, the area north of Skipton and Settle dodged this invisible enemy. Then suddenly, the first of almost 500 farms became silent. Foot and mouth had arrived, and soon more than 250,000 animals will be killed.
I know this will come as a shock to some of you who I haven't had a chance to mention it to, but will know them. But even today, as we meet here in church, John and Vicky Stevenson up on Bordley, their entire stock is being culled throughout today.
For 8 months, a number of farming families in Malhamdale and Upper Wharfdale, their friends and neighbours, allowed a camera to witness their most private moments. A hamlet near the popular village of Malham. Philip Metcalfe has just taken over the running of the family farm, a lifetime's ambition.
I always knew one day that I would take over from my father. People are born and bred into it. You don't suddenly decide one day that I'm going to become a farmer. Even though there's not much financial reward in it, you get your reward with things like this.
Over the hill in Upper Wharfdale, Grassington farmer David Sayer created his business from scratch.
Ho, ho! I worked on a farm for 20 years as a shepherd and farm worker at Rilstone. And then I got a chance to farm on my own, and that's always been my ambition, to have a flock of my own. You can have some up here. They're my friends. I'm a loner at heart, but if I've got my sheep round me, I'm all right, I'm happy. I don't need out else.
Anthony Dean and his family can trace ancestors who farmed near Grassington for over 900 years.
We've been farming here in Threshfield since the 13th century, so I hope I carry on the tradition, and I hope if I get married and when I get married and have children that they'll hopefully do the same.
It is long hours and it isn't the best paying job in the world at all, but I couldn't work in a town or a city, it'd kill me.
Restrictions won't allow farmers like Lister Walmsley to move his cattle out of buildings and onto his lush green fields above Grassington. Unable to pay huge feed bills any longer, Lister makes a painful decision: to have perfectly healthy cattle killed on the government welfare scheme.
It's something I had to do, and I wasn't proud of it, but it was just one of them things that had to be done.
It's the beginning of May. In 10 days' time, these farmers and more will all become victims in some way of what will go down in history as the biggest agricultural disaster to hit the Dales.
In this area, with farms being so intermingled, one infected farm could take 7 or 8 neighbours with him. A farm could be infected, say, 3 miles away and still probably take me out, which is the worrying thought.
Nationally, 1,600 farms have got the disease. The number of neighbouring or contiguous farms wiped out as well is not published. Foot and Mouth is still far from Grassington and Lister Walmsley's family farm.
Ministry vets are actually due round any time now to come and check the animals. They're coming every 2 days. We're sending our youngest son Jonathan to go around with the vet on the quad bike. It's putting an awful lot of stress on my husband. The top and bottom of it is he's worried that the vets are going to find something wrong with the animals.
Jonathan takes the 2 ministry vets to field after field. They're looking for animals that look poor on their feet.
When I leave school, I want to work for my dad. I love farming and I want to continue doing it for the rest of my life. We wonder if we're going to get it, and you know, when math come round, and you know, we wonder what they're going to say. But at the end of the day, you just have to sit and wait, don't you?
They look pretty good, don't they? Yep.
Are you all right then?
Yeah, they are. I think they're jumping out of their skins, in fact.
The visit takes up hours of valuable time. All seems to be fine until they spot a lamb limping.
Front leg?
Yeah.
Oh, it's one that got a broken leg, but we fixed. Well, should have
Got
fixed.
a little splint on.
Oh, okay.
An anxious moment, but a false alarm for Lister's family.
Things can change from day to day, and things can change pretty fast, like.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you now.
Look forward to doing it all again on Tuesday.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you. Bye. Yes, thank you. Ah, well.
Clean bill
Clean
today.
bill of health again, so
Yep.
that there is welded in there.
May the 10th, 2001. The area wakes up to the sound of gunshot, men in white suits and army roadblocks. A farm near Settle gets the disease. Within days, it travels to Mallandale. 11 Dales farms go down with the virus and dozens of neighbouring farms are culled as well. At the end of a savage 7 days, 22,000 mostly healthy animals are silenced.
It's terrible. It's just this waiting all the time. It just does your head in. Completely does your head in.
At the moment, it seems to be travelling 3 or 4 miles and springing up in different areas. Nobody can account for this, so nobody knows who's going to be next at the moment.
Malham is a ghost town. Businesses are open, but the footpaths are closed as the epidemic hits both farming and tourism. It's week 2. 10 more farms become infected, creating dozens of contiguous farms. In just 14 days, one small area of the country has lost 80,000 animals to the slaughtermen.
Foot and Mouth is within a 1.5 miles, both north and south. We're right in the middle. So I feel it's only a matter of time before we have to go, I doubt.
Week 3. 20 more farms get foot and mouth. 100,000 animals have now been killed in this hotspot. One of those farms borders an isolated field Philip rents, well away from his actual farm and the rest of his animals.
I didn't think too much of it, really. He's 3 miles away. 2 hours later, I got a phone call from MAF at Leeds to tell me that this farmer had gone at Coniston. We had a contiguous field to him, and they will be coming to slaughter all our animals sometime Friday.
The main farm is 3 miles away. Other rented fields are 5 miles away from the infected farm. Philip calls MAF in a desperate plea to save his 2,200 animals.
I told him that the fact that the field we were contiguous to had been empty for 3 weeks. He rang me back within an hour and told me that the animals still had to be slaughtered. All the animals we had in 4 different lots.
Philip spends the evening filming his pedigree sheep, lambs and cows.
Them lambs were 2 days old. This was the last night alive. As we walked out of the sheds, the slaughter teams were moving in. I could hear what was going on. It was heartbreaking because you knew that was the last time that you were going to see them. I kept away from I never saw an animal slaughtered. I kept well away from that. It's just like somebody walking into your living room and shooting your pet cat or pet dog in front of you. It's no different feeling to farmers losing animals. You're just losing it on a bigger scale.
The Yorkshire Dales is in crisis. In 3 short weeks, foot and mouth has claimed more than 100,000 animals. Philip Metcalf rents an isolated field 3 miles away that neighbours an infected farm. MAF order not only Philip's animals on that field to be killed, but those on his main farm and on other rented fields 5 miles away. But after 6 hours of culling, the slaughter team leave hurriedly without explanation. 1,800 animals are left piled high in barns outside the kitchen window.
I rang the vet at Leeds, who originally told me I had to go. He said, "Oh, let me just sort these maps out, I'll get back to you." He never rang back. I got back in touch with him and he said, "There's been a mistake. Sheep and baby lambs, cows and week-old cows were slaughtered at Otterburn when they needn't have been, due to the fact that somebody couldn't read a map properly in Leeds."
But Philip's nightmare isn't over. The next day, the press get wind of the story. It's 13 days before the general election and more than 55 journalists call, desperate for details of MAF's mistake.
Once the press got their teeth into it, with countless people ringing the farmhouse where my parents live, and I think this was as much upsetting as losing the animals themselves. They just kept it burning. There was endless people wanting the story, but I didn't talk to anybody. People were offering silly amounts of money for my story. I just wanted my animals back.
Philip remains silent, but is upset to read on teletext that MAF have told the press only 468 animals have been mistakenly killed, when in fact the total was over 1,200. The press release was apparently unclear. After complaining, a revised figure is issued by MAF.
I'd seen it on the television, I read it on the CFAX, that MAF had issued an apology, but I'd never had one.
It was Sunday when a senior person at MAF called to say he was sorry. 5 days after the cull, Philip received a formal letter apologising for the distress caused by the mistake. It said MAF had reviewed their systems and identified a number of changes required to prevent an error like this occurring again. In the letter, the date of the cull was wrong. Foot and mouth has spread over the hill to Upper Wharfdale. Up to 4 farms a day are being wiped out. The village of Grassington is now a battle zone. The sight of tourists in waterproofs is replaced by men in white suits and camouflage gear.
People coming in the shop and they don't need to speak, they're filling up with tears, and the sorrow is enormous in the village. As it stands at the moment, we aren't making any money in the shop. You know, that is a fact. We're just passing time, really.
The few visitors are greeted with dead animals in the car park. Businesses are worried about the long-term effects.
The culling in the car park, seeing it firsthand, which is different to watching it on telly. It's going to have a lasting effect, it's bound to. And the village is like a ghost town as it is.
Their children are seeing this and then they're driving away and very possibly not wanting to come back again because of the impression that it's left upon them.
The farmers worry who'll be next. Will it be them or maybe a neighbour who will also take them out?
It's just like this waiting game. You just cannot concentrate on stuff.
Lister has taken a call from a close friend. This morning, Anthony Dean discovered a cow with ulcers in its mouth. Within an hour, the well-rehearsed machinery of death is being set up on the edge of Grassington.
They'll be just going through hell at present time. Absolute hell.
Anthony Dean and his two sons live to farm. It's been Angus's lifetime ambition to continue 900 years of farming in the village.
They were just slaughtering field after field. Sheep and lambs just running into the pen as if nothing was going to happen. Oh, my pedigree sheep that I haven't had very long, I've tried to breed swelled out ups and loved every minute of it. To just see it go down the paths. Not very nice.
I think even the hardest of men, it brings them to the knees, anything like this. And it's just like having a death in the family.
We had some day-old calves and 10 days old and they've just gone. Just everything has gone. It's just a very empty feeling.
As the Deans lose their animals, there's a domino effect. In line with government policy, all of the Deans' neighbours now have to lose their animals as well. As Michael Harrison is having his animals culled, vets discover blisters in one and declare him to be infected. This means his neighbour, David Sayer, must also have part of his flock killed.
They don't blame the neighbours for bringing it. It's not their fault that it's come. One chap said he was sorry, but it's not his fault. It's a nice view, but it's empty, isn't it? There's nothing there. There's no animals. There's no animals there. Just a dog. So that's it.
David then gets more bad news. Michael Harrison is losing more animals. The slaughter team must cross one of David's other fields. David must move these healthy animals to avoid infecting the whole flock. But the slaughter team jumped the gun, entering his field before the sheep had been moved.
What's the markings on your sheep?
Right, blue on top of shoulder.
David's field is now technically infected and his sheep under threat.
What I have to do now is organise someone to put a fence up.
Yeah.
So then my sheep don't come onto the contaminated area. Yeah.
Is that all right?
I mean, if I say you can't go across, that's the only way to do it. Yeah, no, it's not a problem.
Right.
It's not a problem.
Okay.
Right.
As long as you're happy about it.
Yes, no, we're right, we're all right, yeah. Right. I'm going for some dinner.
The invisible enemy spreads from farm to farm, but there's no animosity. The Deans and Lister offer their support.
It doesn't seem to be just going like clockwork this morning for some reason.
There's no case officer here whatsoever. Army seems to be in charge.
We came up here at 8 o'clock. It's now 11 o'clock. We've done nothing.
Michael's sheep are brought in, but there's a rumour no lorries are available to take away the bodies.
I've told them that they must have, and I need your backing on this, right. They must have that loaded up by 3:30 when school kids come, because I don't want any of those kids seeing.
I'll try my best. I'll do everything I can.
Michael's sheep are now dead. The slaughter team turn to his cattle. Meanwhile, David's day goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, we've got some sheep that are contiguous, and I'm trying to organise the powers that be, vets or whatever, to come and cull them humanely. And it's difficult.
There's a marksman in the field and shooting some cows. They drop and then you hear the bullet.
I got up this morning, went out into the field, and it all comes back to you. And I'm afraid that's foot and mouth.
It'll take years, won't it, to restart?
Just a lifetime's business just wiped out in hours.
The cows are left where they fall. Sheep are piled high next to the road. There's no sign of any lorries.
Taking stock out of these fields here, both sides. They've shot the cattle in the field up there. There's some more cattle in the field at top side to shoot. And they could have had it all in one place. I think it's absolutely bloody scandalous. If the buggers work for me, I'd sack the buggers.
Frustration leads to anger when Lister's wife and daughter cannot drive through because of the dead animals.
Organisation.
Look at this.
Bloody disgraceful time this job's been going on. It's been going on first thing this morning and nothing been done yet. It's terrible. This job should have been dealt with off the road up there. It's no bloody good apologising. I told them up there this morning to take notice to somebody local. Somebody knows what's going on. It's absolutely bloody disgraceful.
While the farmers are happy we film, the presence of a camera is unwelcome by others. Meanwhile, Michael's local vet tries to smooth out more of DEFRA's problems.
He doesn't mind you loading after school's finished or before school. I think we're going to have a job loading before 3:30, OK? So I think what we should do is wait until the whole school is cleared, completely, they've gone home, and then do it after that.
The wagons finally arrive at dusk, facing a dead-end road.
There's 1.5 miles roughly of this road to go up. And I said to them, I says, wouldn't it be better, I says, to turn the wagon round empty instead of loading it and go up road? He said, well, it might have been.
Lister sends his son to his farm gate to block the only turning point.
The wagon's full of dead carcasses and it has to come up a road past hundreds of sheep and cows, past them, and, you know, no wonder they're spreading the disease like they are. They're asking for it. Right.
Then Jonathan gets a call from his dad.
Right, yeah. The boys in blue are here.
I've done everything I can to help these chaps today. From work go, they've asked me things and I've offered them the best help I could give them. They couldn't give a shite about the job. If they'd just done things right to start with, not would have gone amiss.
DEFRA had called the police, but the police agree with Lister and order the lorries to reverse back through the village. As the disinfecting teams leave, an eerie silence is left hanging over the Dale. Foot and Mouth has been in the area for just 5 weeks and has now claimed 212,000 animals. But losing livestock won't be the only heartache the people of Melham and Grassington suffer over the next 6 months. In the next programme, Philip takes a job with the ministry. The Deans start a mammoth clean-up operation. And David has to lose yet more perfectly healthy animals.